Application forms for sharing accommodations must be completed 2 months in advance.
Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check. Hello, my name is Pramod and I am giving this test for practice. I am very happy to give this test today. A thesis is a claim that you can argue for or against. For or against. It should be something that you can present persuasively and clearly in the scope of your paper. So keep in mind the page count. If possible, your thesis should be somewhat original. A thesis is a claim that you can argue for or against. It should be something that you can present persuasively and clearly in the scope of your paper. So keep in mind the page count. If possible, your thesis should be somewhat original. It's not that human activities didn't impact wildlife at all, of course. Heavily hunted species like white-tailed deer, gray squirrels, and raccoons were photographed somewhat less often in hunted areas. Coyotes, coyotes showed up more often in hunted areas. Coyotes showed up more often in hunted areas. While most species didn't avoid hiking trails, the predators actually preferred them. It's not that human activities didn't impact wildlife at all, of course. Heavily hunted species like white-tailed deer, gray squirrels, and raccoons were photographed somewhat less often in hunted areas. Coyotes showed up more often in hunted areas, while most species didn't avoid hiking trails. The predators actually preferred them. The Royal Institution is an organization that has been around for 209 years. Many of the people that have worked here have been scientists themselves, including Michael Faraday. He made the discoveries that made generating and using electricity much easier, making it possible for us all to switch on lights, cook our dinner, play games consoles, much more. The Royal Institution is an organization that has been around for 209 years. Many of the people that have worked here have been scientists themselves, including Michael Faraday. He made the discoveries that made generating and using electricity much easier, making it possible for us all to switch on lights, cook our dinner, play games console, much more. Fake news can distort people's beliefs even after being debunked. For example, repeated over and over, a story such as the one about the people endorsing Trump can create a glow around a political candidate that persists long after the story is exposed as fake. A 2017 study published in the journal Intelligence suggests that some people may have an especially difficult time rejecting misinformation. Fake news can distort people's beliefs even after being debunked. For example, repeated over and over, a story such as the one about the people pop endorsing Trump can create a glow around a political candidate that persists long after the story is exposed as fake. A 2017 study published in the journal Intelligence suggests that some people may have been an especially difficult time rejecting misinformation. Almost 200 years after French psychist Jean Peltier discovered that electric current flowing through the junction of two different metals could be used to produce a heating or cooling effect, researchers say it is time to set up efforts to find new materials for the thermoelectric cooling market. Almost 200 years after French physicist Jean Pilter discovered that electric current flowing through the junction of two different metals could be used to produce a heating or cooling effect, researchers say it is time to set up efforts to find new materials for the thermoelectric cooling market. Researchers have discovered a brain molecule that functions as a thermometer for the presence of odors in an animal's environment. Zebrafish feel the presence of odors via mechan- mechanosensation and water movements, which turns the brain hormone on. Mechanosensation and water movements, which turns the brain hormone on. Researchers have discovered a brain molecule that functions as a thermometer for the presence of odors in an animal's environment. Zebrafish feel the presence of odors via mechanosensation and water movements, which turns the brain hormone on. Vaccines work by training and preparing the body's natural defenses, the immune system, to recognize and fight off viruses and bacteria. If the body is exposed to those disease-causing pathogens later, it will be ready to destroy them quickly, which prevents illness. When a person gets vaccinated against a disease, their risk of infection is also reduced. Their risk of infection is also reduced. Vaccines work by training and preparing the body's natural defenses, the immune system, to recognize and fight off viruses and bacteria. If the body is exposed to those disease-causing pathogens later, it will be ready to destroy them quickly, which prevents illness. When a person gets vaccinated against a disease, their risk of infection is also reduced.
Students should take advantage of the internet before attending the lecture.
Students should take advantage of internet before attending the lecture.
The cafeteria closes soon, but the snack machine is accessible throughout the night.
The cafe will close soon, but the snack machine will be open for a long period of time. Thank you very much.
The sports team members often practice on weekdays and play games on weekends.
The sport team member often practice on weekdays and play games in weekend.
I think we can all agree that being fluent in 2 languages is a good thing.
I think we all can agree that being fluent in 2 languages is a good thing.
Proficiency in a foreign language may be demonstrated by assessment.
Proficiency in a foreign language may be demonstrated by a frequency. Thank you very much.
The books are filled with drawings of machines invented when he was a student.
The books are filled with drawings when he was a student. Thank you very much.
Read the fitness center instructions before attempting to use the equipment.
Read the fitness center instructions before attending to use the equipment.
The renewable energy alternatives were the main aspect of debate during the meeting.
There are no renewable energy sources for the debate in the meeting. Thank you very much.
It was a groundbreaking discovery, but they had to pay a very high price for it.
It was a groundbreaking discovery, but they have to pay a high price for this.
You should include your name and identity number in the registration form.
You should include your name and identification number in registration form.
Experience would be an advantage for this managerial role.
Experience will be advantage in this managerial role. The image gives information about South Bend. The primary feature of the image is percent of country. Firstly, it shows the image gives information about St. Joseph country. The primary feature of the image is percent of country. Firstly, it shows data about South Bend and year. Furthermore, it conveys information about source and IBRC. Furthermore, it conveys information about 2005 and 100,789. Moreover, it compares between year 2010 and 2015. The highest element is 200,090, whereas lowest element is 40.5. To conclude, the picture is very informative and it gives information about St. Joseph country. The image gives information about sign and symbol. The primary feature of the image is to deliver message to the people. Firstly, it shows data about please respect and enjoy these historical gardens. The motive of this picture is to preserve the natural resources. They are avoiding the presence of bicycle, alcohol consumption and playing, and also the walking dogs near that area. I can also see the trees in the back side of the picture. This picture looks very informative and it gives meaningful information to the public. The image gives information about e-waste. The primary feature of the image is electronic waste. Firstly, it shows data about electric waste. The image gives information about e-waste. The primary feature of the image is electronic waste and electric waste. Firstly, it shows data about monitors and televisions. Furthermore, it conveys information about computers, telephones, and printers. Moreover, it compares between DVD and VCR players. The highest value is 30%, which contains washing machines and dryers, whereas the lowest value has monitors, which contain 10%. To conclude, the picture gives information about vacuum cleaners, coffee machines, and toasters.
Why should we bother studying animal behavior? Well, first and foremost, because we're interested in understanding why animals do what they do. There are lots of other reasons for studying animal behavior. Conservation biologists need to know what animals do if they're going to save them. Are those animals social or solitary? How much space do they need? And how many mates do they have? Sometimes you can't predict the outcome of research. Fernando Nottebohm started out being interested in how birds know what to sing. Yet his research eventually led to a complete overhaul of the entire field of neurobiology a totally unanticipated yet utterly monumental effect. And this is the course textbook by John Alcock. The fact that this is in its 9th edition tells you how vast a field animal behaviour is. There's lots of new developments.
Understanding animal behavior was the main topic of the lecture. Firstly, the speaker told about reason for learning animal behavior. He further discussed about outcome of research. Furthermore, he explained about birding and neurobiology. Additionally, he highlighted information about effect and behavior. Moreover, he presented information about new development. In conclusion, the speaker focused on animal behavior.
What do we call one of 4 equal parts of something?
Tetra.
What do we call a person who defends a criminal?
Police, security guard, police, lawyers.
What is the opposite of majority?
Minority.
What do you call a picture or design permanently on your skin made with a needle and ink?
Tattoos.
Which button do we use to remove something from computer?
Delete, cut, delete.
Which word is to describe a bad dream?
Bad dream.
Andrew Carnegie was born in Scotland in 1835. His family moved to America when he was 13 and settled in Pittsburgh. He found jobs working in a fabric mill and telegraph office. Carnegie always did well at whatever he set his mind to. He was known to make improvements to any job he held. While working for the telegraph office, he began studying the railroad system, and he soon became the superintendent. He took the money he had saved and invested in an oil company. His investment return was good, and then he went back to England to learn how to make steel. He wanted to make steel that was cheaper and more durable than American steel. He came back with his knowledge and built a huge steel factory. Carnegie's factory was very successful, and he sold it for $480 million. Carnegie was a very wealthy man, but he was more interested in philanthropy than spending his money on himself. He spent the rest of his life giving his money away to worthy causes. Reading and learning were very important to him, so he built many libraries. He also established universities and research institutes. Carnegie built hospitals, museums, and theaters. One of the most recognizable buildings he built was Carnegie Hall in New York City. Carnegie Hall hosts many concerts and symphonies each year and is an important part of New York City culture. Andrew Carnegie passed away at the age of 83. In his lifetime, he gave away 90% of his fortune. He is known as a man who was selfless and wanted to do good for others.
Readjusting to life in your own country after living abroad for some time is a little like recovering from jet lag after a long flight across several time zones. It takes time. And research indicates that after 9 years of living in a foreign country, you never really do readjust. Of course, things have changed. Governments have come and gone. What you knew as countryside has become a suburb. New technologies have changed the way people go about their daily lives, and so on. These changes may well have been taking place in your adopted country, but they were happening while you were there, so you could adapt as you went along. Those are not the main difficulties, however. It is in the smaller, everyday things that you might experience what is known as culture shock, although it's not really a shock, but puzzling all the same. For example, the precise way to behave at a supermarket checkout may have changed, and in ordinary conversation, the frames of reference have changed, and quite often you find that you don't really know what people are talking about, even though they are speaking your native tongue.
If sea levels continue to rise, eventually the property becomes inundated, and the real value of the property, the vast bulk of its value, will be in the value of the land, which of course is then unusable. And that's of course not insured by proper insurance. Landowners and banks and other financial institutions that have lent money against the value of those properties are going to find that they suffer very serious losses, and it's not at all obvious at the moment who would compensate them.
Without getting into the details of exactly how that happened or how she got it out, let's just say it was a bad situation. And she panicked because, like for many of us, her phone is one of the most used and essential tools in her life. But on the other hand, she had no idea how to fix it because it's a completely mysterious black box. So think about it. What would you do? What do you really understand about how your phone works? What are you willing to test or fix? For most people, the answer is nothing. In fact, one survey found that almost 80% of smartphone users in this country have never even replaced their phone batteries, and 25% didn't even know this was possible.
Social harm originates out of a series of debates within criminology about the narrowness of the definition of crime, that essentially focuses on individual acts of harm, things like interpersonal violence, theft, so on and so forth. So the idea of social harm originally was to expand that notion of harm to encompass the harms that organizations and nation-states cause. But latterly the idea of social harm really now transcends criminology, so there are a group of writers who think that, and I would include myself there, that actually there's something to social harm that could be very useful in terms of trying to understand the harms that occur within society, to produce an objective and well-rounded analysis of harm.
Did any of you notice those strange greenish-colored lights in the sky last night? Anybody? Mark?
I did, sir. They were beautiful. But, what were they?
We call them the northern lights, but they're also called auroras. There are two types of auroras, those in the northern hemisphere and those in the southern hemisphere. In the north, we call them the aurora borealis. In the south, they're the aurora australis. Auroras appear as colorful streams of light in the sky in high northern and southern latitudes. They frequently occur during the months before or after the equinox. The equinox happens in March and September. That's when the planet is tilted so that it's neither pointed away from nor toward the sun. So, why do auroras occur? They're the result of a reaction in the upper atmosphere. Solar winds hit the Earth's magnetic field. This may excite the oxygen and nitrogen atoms in the atmosphere. After some time, the atoms become relaxed. As they relax, the electrons in these atoms give off energy. This energy appears in the form of light. The color of the light depends on whether it comes from oxygen or nitrogen. In addition, the height in the atmosphere helps determine the colors that the light forms. Also, just so you know, oxygen usually emits a green or brownish red light. Nitrogen typically gives off a red or blue light. Most auroras are green in color.
Now let's talk video. Video and audio as a tool for mobile. And here's the thing. It also works beautifully for social media and web too. You kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Do you know why TV does so well and films do so well? It's a really easy answer. We humans react best to seeing pictures of other humans talking back to us and playing all these stories and whatnot. Yet you'll find that most of the web is text. Yet when I have a 4-minute video, it does better, or when I have a slideshow that has an audio track to it, they do so much better than all my other content because we need that. This is a flat screen. We need to liven it up somehow. This is a small screen. It's not easy to read lengthy text, but if I create a lengthy article and then I create a 3-minute video or a set of 3-minute videos about it, then I'm now just repurposed and I have something to use. I have differentiated from all my competitors, and I use a fancy QR code to link to these. Oh my God, we're innovating at the speed of, okay.
Earlier this year, I was driving through the countryside with a girl of 6, and she pointed out some flowers by the wayside. I asked her what she thought flowers were for. She gave a very thoughtful answer. 2 things, she said, to make the world pretty and to help the bees make honey for us. I thought that this was a very nice answer, and I was very sorry to have to tell her that this wasn't.
We all get depressed. Bad stuff happens to us. We all get depressed. We feel lousy. We feel withdrawn. We feel sort of a sense of grief, and we're not taking much pleasure, and we withdraw. And then we get better. We cope. We heal. We deal with things in life. What's the deal with you that you can't do that? And there's this lurking sense, given that all of us have periods of being depressed and come out the other end, when you look at people who instead go down and stay down there to this crippling extent, there's always this little voice between the lines there of, come on, pull yourself together. We all deal with this sort of thing. I will make the argument throughout here that depression is as real of a biological disorder as is juvenile diabetes. And you don't sit down a diabetic and say, oh, come on, what's with this insulin stuff? Stop bathing yourself and pull it together. You will see this is just as much of a biological.
Oh, it's very spooky. First of all, probability by itself is spooky. Let me show you how probability enters the system. You walk past a store window, and you see an image of yourself in the store window. You're straightened apart. You're not so bad, you know, for a man of my age. The guy in the store window who's fooling around with mannequins, he sees you, and you see yourself. What does that mean? A stream of photons from sunlight leaves your face, heads for the store window. Let's consider one of them. It has a choice. It can go right through so that the guy behind the window can see you, or it could be reflected from the store window. Some fraction of them are reflected, some of them go through. What determines that? What determines the future of that photon? And countless such examples teach us that it's random, that it's a throw of the dice. And that's where Einstein made his famous statement, God plays dice with the universe. At every instant of that single object, that quantum object, we have probability. We do not have certainty.
Well, there's a positive obligation on the bank to ensure that the people who are signing a loan guarantee know what they're doing. Loan guarantees are kind of unique in that someone is giving security or a guarantee and placing themselves at risk for someone else, and they receive nothing material in return. So you've got to ask yourself, why is this person doing this? Do they know what they're doing? They're risking a lot and not really getting anything back for it. So the imperative is that the bank must ensure that these people know what they're doing and that they fully understand the implications of what they're doing, and they know that their properties may be sold if another person doesn't meet their obligations.
For some people, this proposition may seem far-fetched, but ending poverty is both morally necessary and actually feasible. All of us must play a role in making it happen. All human beings want and have a right to live in dignity, to determine our own destinies, and to be respected by other people. Despite the universality of these rights, our capacities to fulfill them vary enormously. And no dividing line is more profound in influencing the quality of our lives than the gulf between poverty and prosperity.
It is necessary that literacy should be taught at secondary school. Easter Island is a small island in the southeastern Pacific Ocean. Science and technology is good for the global economy. The Commissioner will apportion the funds among all the sovereignties.